Hello and welcome to Chadify. Today we will be analyzing 3 different individuals who purchased my face analysis, Looksmaxxing suggestions, and Chadification gig. I want to take the time to thank each of these 3 individuals for allowing me to showcase the results and to support the channel Chadify. If you are interested in getting your face analyzed with Looksmaxxing suggestions tailored to your unique circumstance, I highly recommend you check the link in the description. I also offer Chadification so you can see what you would look like as an 8+ out of 10 in terms of attractiveness facially. The purpose of Chadify is to help others. I will be employing a mathematical rating criterion that I developed. Alright guys, here is face number 1. He's 23 years old, 83 kilograms at 189 centimeters or 6'2". Face number 1 is a very interesting case as this is a harsh lighting photograph. He took these photos with his cell phone and he didn't glamorize it in any regard. And we have to take this into consideration while we rate him. And here's another one. Here we have slightly better lighting photos where he looks substantially more attractive in my opinion. Best features in order of importance. Face number 1, let's do it. First of all, he has a straight, forwardly grown mandible. It is very much prominent from the side profile. Here are better lighting photos. You can see on these ones, it looks that much better. It's definitely a strong feature for face number 1. Lean with good facial definition. Face number 1 is definitely not overweight at all. He's tight hyoid skin. There is no real sagginess going on anywhere in these photos. And he has clear, soft skin, which definitely works with the archetype because he's more in that pretty boy appearance area. Monolid eye shape with good proportions. The truth is, almond eye shape and hooded eye shape are not the only 2 options that are attractive in my opinion. The monolid is definitely an attractive eye shape. Minimal to negligible upper eyelid exposure. This connects right back to the monolid eye shape here, as monolid is basically characterized by the fact that it does not have any upper eyelid exposure. And then face number 1 has very thick, very luscious hair. Furthermore, face number 1 has a lengthy ramus where the gonian undercuts the mouth, and that is showcased right here. It's quite obvious. He has high set cheekbones, and he has positive canthal and brow tilt, which is highly attractive, as the medial canthus of the eye is lower than the lateral canthus. That ties right into the fact that face number 1 has a downward pointing medial canthus, which positively enforces the positive canthal tilt. Face number 1 has dark, thick eyebrows and eyelashes, and he has a great Cupid's bow of 2-to-1 length. Fantastic. Face number 1 is tan skin. Face number 1 is so young that anything he does now will have an immense effect on the progress in his future. The younger you start Looksmaxxing, the better. Facial flaws in order of importance. Face number 1, wide set eyes. Face number 1 has 130% of one eye width apart of his eyes. Ideally, this should be only 100%. Secondly, face number 1 has a long philtrum of 1.7 to 1. This actually should be 2.25 to 2.5 to 1, meaning his philtrum is far too long. Thirdly, face number 1 has a very long mid-face. Previously, I rated this guy with different photographs, and it was more around the 1.2 to 1 ratio. However, from this photograph here, it appears to be about 1.3. Now, this could be a bit of a fluctuation thing here where it's maybe 1.25 in reality to 1. However, it's still a big flaw, unfortunately. You're going to see later some ways of mitigating this, and they work 9 times out of 10, if not more. Furthermore, face number 1 has a narrow mid-face of 1.4 to 1. Ideally, you would want this to be at least 1.6 to 1.7 all the way up to 2 to 1. So this is unfortunately below the ideal range. Face number 1 has a moderate eyebrow to eye distance. It's not anything too severe, but it's a little bit longer than ideal. And he has thin lips, especially his upper lip. Additionally, face number 1 has a narrowing lower third, and you can see here it's definitely coming in more than optimal. And finally, face number 1 has a round, slightly thin chin. Ultimately, his chin should be much more squared off than this and larger in general. Albeit, this is a flaw, but not of high significance. Guess his rating, guys. And before we do this, I want you to keep in mind that this picture here and many of his other pictures look significantly more attractive than this. And sometimes lens distortion can create a longer appearing face with less width. 3, 2, 1. 6 out of 10 attractiveness. And I know I'm going to get some backlash in the comments accusing me of overrating this guy in some cases, but I want you to recognize the fact in many of his photos with better lighting, he is significantly more attractive. However, I would love to hear your insight in the comments regardless of what you think. Looksmaxxing advice. Face number 1 should definitely hit the gym, gain muscle, and lose fat. I believe he's already doing this to a certain degree. Ultimately, a lot of people that are Asian have polarizing views. Some of them believe that muscle makes them look too masculine. It doesn't fit their male archetype. And the truth is, all you need to do is look at people like Matt Ogus, Hun, H Champion, all these different YouTubers, Goku Flex. These people, they look absolutely phenomenal. I think when Asian people get shredded and jacked, it definitely still is helpful. Secondly, face number 1 should definitely employ a skincare regimen because maintaining his youthful, soft skin appearance is highly critical. Thirdly, hairstyle. I believe that face number 1 has a decent haircut already. I would caution against the fade haircut simply because he has a thinner and longer mid face. The more hair you have on the sides that's a little bit longer, such as this photo right on the left here, this will make your face appear a bit wider, a bit more full, and it works much better when you have a longer, thinner mid face. And honestly, if he experimented with some K-pop inspired styles because he has that look going on a bit, I think it would be highly beneficial for his circumstance. Style Max. I already think that face number 1 has a pretty good grasp on this. He could definitely get a gold chain and pair it with some black outfits, simulated hair really quickly. And then finally, lip augmentation. This basically means plumping up your lips. In fact, face number 1 got lip fillers after my recommendations to him. We're gonna dive right into that now. Believe it or not, as a man, getting lip fillers can be highly beneficial if you have a long mid-face ratio. If you don't have that compact 1-to-1 ratio, getting lip fillers can literally change your life, especially if you have thin lips. Face number 1 was a perfect candidate for this treatment. There we go. Mid-face ratio will go down. It'll get more compact. His face width ratio will actually increase because the base value of it will increase by that given upper lip increase of distance. Thirdly, obviously, lip size will increase. And then finally, a very interesting one here is that it will actually also help your chin philtrum ratio. It will make your chin philtrum ratio longer because your chin will look longer relative to your philtrum. I mean, just look at the photo here. There's definitely a difference. Absolutely excellent. Face 1 specifically got a 1 milliliter dermal filler injected into his lip in a fashion that would avoid it from projecting forwards, creating the duck face appearance. Face number 1 did another tactic of wearing glasses which have a bit of magnification, which in turn lowers his mid-face ratio appearance. The results have been staggering, now averaging over 15 to 20 likes versus 5 to 6 previously. This is showcasing how he's changed over his whole span of Looksmaxxing. I zoomed out on the final picture here just because he has been not only working out, but he's also showcasing his style. Brands with names and logos all over it, they're not always the best course of action. Going to something simple like this is a highly recommended swap. Time to Chadify. Face number 1. With unlimited budget comes unlimited possibilities. Wow. Slowly changing. So you can really see that his cheekbones, they just fill right out. Obviously, I respect the constraints of his bone structure in his face. So I'm not making his mid-face and his face width come out that much. Rather, I'm just focusing on getting those lips a bit thicker, bringing in his cheekbones, and just overall making his face a bit more attractive. Reverse. And then a fast one. Boom. Chadify completed. Okay, side view. This is the left side of his face. You can really see how his chin and everything comes out a bit more. Nothing too drastic here because his side profile is pretty good. There's the reverse, and then one really fast version. You can even see his neck and everything getting thicker back here because you can gain muscle. And then the right side, again, the chin is coming out a bit further, but nothing too drastic. Everything's getting a bit more squared up. And then we got a reverse here, and then a fast version. Face number 2, age 17, 68 kilograms, pretty light guy, at 6 feet tall, so he's pretty tall as well. And then here's a video. He's not really showing the sides of his face, just sort of his appearance. And then we got another photo here, and then we got like a left side of his face here, as well as a smiling shot, and then a longer hairstyle picture here. Personally, I really like this hair on him. And then another one, I think this is in his car. I wonder what he's listening to. Best features in order of importance. Let's do it. Tight hyoid, lean face, hollow cheekbones. Boom. 3 things in one. This guy has immense leanness in his body. It's obvious. Every single trait here is connected to that. So you can see how important it is to get to a lower body fat percentage. He has almond eye shape, albeit a bit squinty. Straightforward grown mandible. In every single picture, it looks excellent. Fourthly, great skin. Great skin quality, highlighted in all 3 photos here. He has thick, luscious hair and deep set eyes. It's definitely very, very prominent here. And he has the ideal eye spacing of 100% of one eye width apart. Positive canthal tilt. The medial canthus of his eye is lower than the lateral canthus. And he has dark, thick eyebrows and eyelashes. He has an ideal gonial angle of 115 degrees, and he has a gonion which undercuts his mouth slightly. And you can definitely see that here. Nothing too insane, so it's not like way up on the list here, but still a positive feature overall. And additionally, face number 2 has a forward grown maxilla. Face number 2 has full lips. And finally, he's young, at only 17 years of age. Facial flaws, in order of importance. Long philtrum. He is a 1.88 to 1 philtrum. Ideally, this should be 2.25 to 2.5 to 1. But let me say here, although this is his biggest flaw, he still pulls it off with some facial harmony. But in his circumstance, it perhaps is just the hollow cheekbone effect really taking prominence. It doesn't look like a severe issue that would hinder him. He's a narrowing lower third. Another thing that, although it structurally and on paper isn't great, the hollow cheekbone effect definitely mitigates the damage. Thirdly, he has a sideways pointing medial canthus of the eye. Contrary to popular belief, you can have a sideways pointing medial canthus while still having positive canthal tilt. He has moderate upper eyelid exposure and moderate eye-eyebrow distance, similar to face number 1. He's a slightly overly compact mid-face of 0.9 to 1. Ideally, this should be 1 to 1. Furthermore, face number 2 has a slightly thin mid-face of 1.6 to 1. It nearly passes. He has a thinner neck than ideal, and he has a medium ramus length, which is slightly round as well. Although his gonion undercuts his mouth, his ramus isn't of the best length and quality, in my opinion. However, if you do look at this picture here, it looks a lot better, so you gotta pick and choose. Additionally, face number 2 has a faint wide set cupid's bow. It doesn't really show as much as it should, in my opinion, and is too wide, but again, this is such a small flaw. And finally, face number 2 has teeth with some gaps. This is also known as diastema. Because his teeth are quite straight, and really it's just the gaps that I'm noticing here, it's a very small flaw. Guess face number 2's rating, guys. 3, 2, 1. 6 out of 10 facial attractiveness. This photo here almost is bordering on a 7 in some ways, but then the other photos here are a bit closer to a 5. And when you average everything out, he really comes to that solid high tier normie range of attractiveness. Looksmaxxing advice. Orthodontics. Close up the gaps of his teeth. Although it's a small flaw, it's a really easy one to fix. When you have minor orthodontic issues, the treatment goes by much faster. Continue lifting. Gain muscle, lose fat. It's obvious that face number 2 already lifts. He's only 17 years of age, which means he hasn't even gained the majority of his muscle yet. He has a ton of gains to come, and if he stays really lean and athletic, which he appears to be already, he's gonna look that much better in the future. Ultimately, for face number 2, he should definitely focus on thickening up his neck. Thirdly, face number 2 should definitely employ a good skincare regimen. It doesn't matter what color of skin you have, SPF protection is always important. This is an interesting one. He's prettier than most people. And not only that, the fact that he has these beautiful hollow cheekbones, I don't think a beard maxing regimen at this moment is ideal because it might conflict with his overall facial harmony. However, technically it could fix his chin philtrum ratio by making his chin a bit longer. And then haircut. I think he should definitely keep the longer hair. I believe it suits him much better than the shorter hair appearance. Time to Chadify. Face number 2. And then you can see here, his jaw just gets wider. His eye area improves a bit. And when we go in the reverse here, and then a fast version, you're really seeing that neck thickening up. Highly attractive. Face number 3, age 22, 84 kilograms or 185 pounds at 6 feet as well. We got a lot of tall people today, don't we? All right, so there's his left side, right side, and then wakes. The beautiful thing is that face number 3 actually sent me an update video very similar to face number 1, and I really want to showcase that here because we're going to see a small improvement and we'll comment on it later anyways. Here it is. He's got a beard trim, and you can really see that it looks substantially better than the previous video. Anyways, I wanted to showcase both of them because they're both fantastic videos for the purpose of this video. Video in a video in a video. Best features in order of importance. Let's do it. Straightforward grown mandible. Boom. It's obvious. Boom, 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 boom. Thick, luscious hair with a squared off hairline. It might be a little bit on the shorter side of like the thirds, but he also is tilting his head back, so that will affect the measurement. And he has the ideal skin texture between rough and soft, somewhere right in that happy medium. He has equal thirds of facial width, no narrowing lower third at all, and he has a lengthy ramus where the gonian undercuts the mouth. Furthermore, face number 3 has an ideal gonial angle on the lower end at 110 degrees. It looks excellent. And he has ideal eye spacing of 100% of one eye width apart, like face number 2. Additionally, face number 3 has dark, thick eyebrows and eyelashes, and he has good chin projection. Face number 3 has great maxillary growth, and he has good lip size. It's not overly large, but it definitely is within that ideal range. And then finally, face number 3 is young at only 22 years of age. Facial flaws in order of importance. Moderate upper eyelid exposure. Face number 3 does not have the ideal amount of upper eyelid exposure, unfortunately. He's a long chin philtrum ratio of 2.75 to 1. Ideally, you would want this to only be 2.25 to 2.5 to 1. It's much better than having a longer philtrum. Face number 3 has a sideways pointing medial canthus of the eye here. He has slightly negative canthal tilt, albeit very minimal. Furthermore, face number 3 has a slightly overly compact mid-face of 0.9 to 1, just like face number 2. And he has a slight eyebrow asymmetry where his right eyebrow here is higher than his left. Face number 3 has average compactness in his eye orbitals, and he has an overly squinty eye shape. Face number 3 has a little bit of hyoid sag. Again, this is extremely minimal. Normally, this is a high importance flaw, which would go all the way up to the top. In his circumstance, because it's so small, and in fact, almost unnoticeable in this photo, it's still a flaw, but nothing too substantial. And finally, face number 3 has ears that stick out a little bit more than ideal. Guess his rating, guys. Face number 3. 6. Every single person today was a 6. Now is a great time for you all to comment below your opinion on the ratings I've given thus far in the video, as it helps the YouTube algorithm. Don't worry, the next video is gonna have people all over the map. Looksmaxxing advice. Beard maxing. We need to square up his beard and make it more angular. And guess what? This was taken about a month or 2 later on, and as a result to that, we can see his beard more angular. And I think it's absolutely drastic and incredible how much of a difference it makes in both his hyoid area and bringing his chin philtrum ratio slightly down from that 2.75 because we're trimming that area just a bit. Second piece of advice, guess what? Jim, I always say this. Why? Because it helps everybody. Anyone who denies it is so wrong. I would love to have a total discussion about it in the comments section. I literally am so well versed on this. Fitness is important, and for anybody, it is recommended. The reason that most people get kind of weird about it is because they think it's always about gaining the muscle, but it's actually more about losing the fat. Luckily, all 3 of the people today don't really need to do too much of the second characteristic because they're already so lean. Skincare regimen. SPF protection is especially critical when you have lighter skin tone. And then Style Max. I love the gold chain. It would look awesome to have some lighter clothing to really pop out and make a skin look more tanned, or even some darker clothing that just makes him look extremely professional and goes well with the gold chain and his browner eye color. And then investigate eyewear. Ultimately, this would take the focus off of some of the flaws in his eye region. Time to Chadify. Face number 3. Let's do it. Wow. So you can see his eyebrows, which were already quite dark, darken further, and it obviously looks amazing. His eyelashes get a little bit darker, which I think really complements his more masculine face. And I just love the way that you got the pretty, you got the masculine, it all goes together and ties like a painting. Certain areas of his face don't change at all because they're highly attractive. A reverse, and you can see everything kind of fading away, that was improved. And then a fast version, boom. This is a side-by-side comparison of all three of them. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned, and I'll talk to you guys next time.